you say if we win Europa League, he probably saves his job. Is that regardless of league form from now? Like, let's say we lose every game, we stay up on the final day by the skin of our teeth and win Europa League. Is he still in the job next season?
I personally wouldn't. I personally wouldn't because, like I said, and it wasn't, and it's not because it is only because I don't trust the players he's brought in and the recruitment. That could be him. That could be Ange. I don't understand some of the transfers that have come in, the way they're done. So I don't know with Champions League money if we've got a recruitment team and these players that will come to play in an Ange Postecoglou system or whatever it may be. So I think Tottenham need a complete refresh.
Wait, so Brian, let me change the question then for you. If we have a great,
have I got to choose a button? Have I got a button?
No, 2 buttons. No, I'm joking. Let me rephrase it then. Let's say we have a great end to the season. This is just you, not the club. If we have a great end to the season, we win our last 10 games or something, right? And we win the Europa League. Is that enough for you to say, actually, I'm going to give him another season?
No.
For you personally. So nothing at this point. Nothing can save for you personally. No. Nothing can save him at this point.
Go on. You go, Sean. You speak. Go on, buddy.
No, I just want to know his opinion.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so the only reason I say this is obviously injuries have been a problem for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've had this issue. Obviously, this year is a lot more severe than last time. The way we play football, I mean, you look at it now. We used to be attacking. Yes, we wanted it to be a bit more pragmatic, but even when we've needed to attack recently, i.e. Liverpool and other games, we just don't do it anymore. We just don't do it. When Nuno Espirito Santos had a game, or he had 3 in the end, where we didn't have a single shot on target, the meltdown was absolutely horrific, like everywhere. And I was part of that because I don't accept that. Yet here we are, and it's just barely mentioned, like on the day of the game and then afterwards, and then not mentioned again. I just don't see. And the worst thing about it is other teams know what to do now. It's clear that whatever Ange Postecoglou does and he sticks to it, that it only takes a few weeks. One team will do it, and every team will go, right, we know how to beat Spurs.
No, but I'm saying, okay, that's what's happened. But I'm saying if he used to turn it around, we get the players back, we go on a great run of form, and we win Europa League. That's not enough for you.
No, because I'm saying the same thing will happen again next season. With the style of play, people will work out how to play us because he plays one way, and he will stick to it. They'll work it out. We'll be in the same situation. I just can't see. Don't get me wrong, if he could turn it around, brilliant. If he was given the time and he turned it around and proved me wrong, absolutely delighted to hold my hands up and go, Joe, I've got it wrong. But I just can't see.
But you're saying even if he did, you would still sack him, though?
Yeah.
I'm
saying this season.
You're doing a very good job of parking him into a corner.
I'm saying for the rest of this season, but Simeon, if you actually believe, and it's all well and good saying, if he was to win the last 10 games of the season, win the Europa, it's not going to happen.
I'm just giving hypotheticals. I'm trying to see you're saying it's
not going to happen.
If he won Europa League, if he had a bad end to the league season, he would still sack him. I'm just trying to see if there's anything he can do to keep him in a job in your eyes.
No, I always stand by. I just can't see. Like I said, he'll get figured out. Injuries will start again next season. We'll still be in Europe if we win the Europa League, according to your hypothetical thing, and then we're playing Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll need Champions League players to come in, and that's a Levy thing, to pay the higher money, to pay the higher wages. We've clearly
Brian,
seen.
Do you agree with me, Brian, that Daniel Levy might be in a position now where because of the pressure that I think a lot of what you're doing and people like you who feel the way you do. I don't personally subscribe to this notion that it will result in what you want, but at the very least, a byproduct of it is an effort to make more of an effort with regards acquisition of talent. Do you subscribe to the same notion that you might see a player or maybe two that kind of that go that extra mile, where you might see £70 million plus spent on one player and a new highest earner of the club?
No, maybe 70 million. You got to remember, we smashed our transfer record for Solanke. He's on lower wages than what Dembele was on.
We didn't really smash it, did we? We eked over the line. It was.
We know, but I'm saying we might pay a record transfer fee, but I doubt we'll smash the wage bill, because this is what we've been doing, and I just don't listen, Sean. As much as I'd love to say, do you know what? Maybe this year, but do you know how many times I've gone in and heard this window? This is the one where Spurs could attack the market. This is the window where Spurs have got the advantage. This is the window that Spurs are going to go in and make a difference. And then we go make that one early signing. And then the rest of the window is just buzzword bingo and nonsense. And then we end up going, oh, yeah, well, we at least we tried. I just don't believe that Daniel Levy has any desire to pay the top wages, or not even the top. I'm not talking the 300 grand a week. Parity with Son, maybe a little bit higher than Son. It's there to be done, but I just do not believe, and I've had 17 years of being the way I am, to see on footballing matters things improve with the quality of player and everything. And do you know what it is as well, Sean? Whilst we're talking Levy, people know my shtick.
We've got a topic. We've got a topic about Levy.
All right, so I'll save it for there. I'll save it there. But in answer to your question, Sean, I do not see Spurs doing it. Maybe the transfer record, like they did with Solanke. Yes, the wages.
Not a wage record.
Hell no.
Okay, fair enough.
Sean. So Sean, same question that we gave to Brian.
What was the question?
About does Europa League for you save Ange's job?
I think it has to. I do think it has to. I think if you win the highest profile trophy in Daniel Levy's tenure, I think that you have to shake hands with that. Which, what will be interesting is that what I do find interesting is that the Europa League has so much more caliber, so much more kind of gravitas and brownie points, or whatever you want to call it. But the pathway to having success in it will likely be far easier than what we would have had to face to get to the Carabao Cup final. To take on and beat both Manchester teams, and then obviously Coventry, and then we did really well in the first leg against Liverpool. Shame we didn't have the same gusto in the second leg. If we had found a way to get past them to take on Newcastle or Arsenal, if you found the way to lift that cup, and then, or otherwise, it doesn't matter. But then you go to the Europa League, and depending on the draw. I mean, Tottenham are second favourites, despite all of our injury problems, all of our youth process, and yet it will come with far higher accolades than what happened in 2008. But ultimately, the rubber meets the road with just how the optics look. If you lift the Europa League, whether you're an Ange in or an Ange out, I think that you should have to shake hands with the reality that Daniel Levy will be absolutely delighted with getting that sort of monkey off his back, right? And to do it in the Europa League, and to get back into the Champions League, where you're going to pick up minimum 50 million quid, which is really important to Daniel Levy, even though if you actually look at the numbers, when you pick up 500 million plus circa average revenue, and you're guaranteed 50 million quid, give or take, from the Champions League, that's 10% of revenue from qualification into a tournament, which is significant, but nowhere near as big as it used to be. When we used to be 350, 400 million revenue, then it was more like 18, 19, 20%, right? And so to Daniel Levy, who is a numbers guy and a bean counter, whatever you want to call him, that is a reason to be super happy with Ange Postecoglou's output, if that was to manifest. But also, just from a fan perspective, anybody that would say, despite that, Ange isn't the guy, I think it would be very unreably. So
is that regardless of how the league form goes? Like, does the league form also have to improve a bit, or does that regardless? Absent
relegation. But like I say, if Tottenham are flirting closer to relegation long before we get to, I mean, we're only in the last 16, and that doesn't happen until March. If you were to lose the next 3 games before whoever we play in the last 16, then I'd be surprised if Daniel Levy, especially if the performances are also something similar to what you saw in the Liverpool game, where as much as I know you defended it, as much as I also understand that it's Liverpool, best team in the world, at home, under the lights, all that, I get all that. But if you were to see something against Manchester United that was also abject at home, and the Levy out thing is banging around the stadium for 90 minutes, I'm not sure who we're playing after Manchester United in the schedule. But if you were to see that, Who was it? Sorry,
Ipswich.
Well, okay, fine. Yeah. So if you were to lose and it's a terrible performance against United, and then you also happen to put in an Ipswich who are likely to go down, take 6 points off you this season, I think that the decision will be made before the next time we play in the Europa League. But so yeah, absent a relegation or something that's getting there, then if we're hanging around where we are, or we improve marginally, but the form in the Premier League is up and down like it has been, then I think the Europa League will be enough to keep him in a job for the next, at least for the better part, for the first half of next year. And if things don't improve materially, then he'll be out before Christmas.
He will stay in the job if he wins the Europa League, but the reality is the jury will still be massively out from a lot of fans, including myself. And it'll be probably the kiss of death. One day Ramos won a trophy, lost his job the next season. George Graham won a trophy, lost his job the next season. Pochettino got to a Champions League final and lost his job the next season as well. So, I mean, he probably will lose his job in the following season.
The form, funnily enough, Ben, is not dissimilar, right? In the Champions League final year with Tottenham, our league form was horrendous, right? Yeah. And obviously in the start of the season after, it was awful, right?
And the same with like Eric Ten Hag, wasn't it? We went in almost a year without an away win in that final calendar year.
Yeah, but it just shows the difference now. We're talking about us being horrendous, but we finished fourth that year and got to a Champions League final.
How long can we go without a home win?
I only thought it was 2 months when I spoke to Simeon, and then Simeon corrected me. It was 3 months.
3 months since a home win is just.
It's not.
I don't think I've ever seen us go 3 months without a home win. Has that ever happened for us in the Premier League era?
I would highly doubt it. Seriously, I would highly doubt it under any manager, any of them, including Christian Gross.
It's mental. It's absolutely mental. 3 months without a home win, and we've played the likes of like Leicester and Wolves and stuff at home.
Ben, can I ask you? I know you're playing host tonight.
Let me just say. I think if he does win, I think I was not surprised, but I do think if he wins Europa League, I think, and especially if our league form improves on top of that with the players coming back, I think he would have proven that the injuries were the source of the issue with our current form. If he was to come home and finish the season with the European trophy, and obviously if our league form was to improve, I think he would be justified in a lot of what he's been saying, Ange, in my opinion. That's where I kind of land on that. Obviously, it'll be an interesting discussion. Let's say he gets to a final, and let's say the league form really improves. Let's say we go on some really good form, and he gets to a final but loses the final. Be interesting to see what the club do in that situation.
But judging by what you've seen so far this season as a whole, do you really believe that we can go and get to the Europa League final? Do you believe that
if we play like we were playing before the injury, before the crisis, I do think we can have a good crack at this Europa League. Genuinely,
you think we can actually go and win it? I just can't.
I don't know about winning it. There's some good teams there. Bilbao's a good team. Lazio a good team. Winning it is look. There's as much as people want to bemoan the quality of Europa League, whatever. It's still you have to be a good team to win that competition. And
why aren't those teams a bit stronger favourites than Tottenham at the moment? Is that just because of the weight of money that comes from
just the names,
British fans?
Yeah, probably just the name Tottenham. Like we're just a big club in who I thought, aren't we? Who's the favourite then? Who is the favourite? Is it not Tottenham? Really, they're the favourites now.
I thought we're above United in the odds. Are we not?
May have been,
last time I looked on Betfair, it was a dry market, to be honest. It does take a lot of money to move it at this stage of the competition, but
United are now slight favourites.
What did you want to ask, Sean?
Yeah, I wanted to. I know Ben, you're playing host today. I asked Ben I asked Brian at the start. Who, if Ange out, then who? And he said Thomas Frank. What would you like to see? And same question to Sim. I know Sim's out, obviously Ange in, but like if he does go, what do you want to see Tottenham do next?
Yeah, I'm like you a bit, Sean. I really want to see Pochettino back at the club, but I just don't think that's going to happen until after the World Cup. So you kind of got an 18-month period where you need to find someone. And I do think Pochettino will be back at the club at some stage. I just don't know when that will be. I think I like Thomas Frank, I like Marco Silva, I like Iraola, I like these kind of managers, but probably Iraola would probably be my number one choice. If not, I really like Marco Silva because I think Marco Silva is a very adaptable manager.
What about the talk of Inzaghi? There's talk
I heard
of
that
him leaving
yesterday.
Inter. You wouldn't want him, or you don't think he would come? Is that not realistic?
I don't think he would come.
But would you want him?
I mean, I don't know too much about Inzaghi. I'd need
Very
to do
similar
a bit
to
more
Conte,
research,
essentially.
So probably not then.
You wouldn't want him.
Well, he scored, I think, last season for Inter. Didn't he craft a team that conceded the fewest goals and also score the most?
I'm saying he's a very good. Conte's a great manager as well. I think he's better than Conte in Europe. I think obviously he got to a Champions League final, didn't he? And they were very good, I thought, against City.
Yeah,
in that
I need
final.
to do a bit more research into Inzaghi. I don't know too much about him.
I think he's
what
brilliant
his
for Inter.
philosophy is, what kind of positionals.
He's like a bit
plays.
more offensive Conte, but still kind of back three. Make sure the defence is solid, but he is a bit more free flowing than Conte.
But will
So your
Daniel
choice-
Levy hire another passionate?
I mean, I like him,
Italian-
but I don't know if it's I don't know if the narratives will precede him. He'll come in with this narrative of he's an Italian manager similar to Conte, and people just use, whenever we lose a game 1-0 or something, people use that stick to beat him with. I'm worried about that, but I like him. I liked Conte, obviously, but I like Inzaghi. I think he'd be a great coach, but it would be, again, another major departure from what we have. So it's going to be another,
The pendulum can't swing back for me.
Yeah,
it has to,
it's going to be
it has to-
swinging.
it
It'll
has
be
to
swinging.
dial it back 10%. But like in politics, when the mainstream are advocating change, this time it's for different, this time it's for permanent, whatever. But then nothing really ever changes in the horseshoe of politics. It takes someone, generally speaking, to come out and advocate for wild changes. That's what populism is. That ultimately doesn't land too far from the norm anyway. And so I think that Ange was the necessary cog in a pivot away from what Tottenham have been, a flip-flop in the strategy and the formation and the philosophy. But Ange was a necessary cog. I just think that particular sail has now lost its wind. And I don't want to see us pivot back to someone that's pragmatic. I want to see us to continue to have some sort of vein in that regard, but just a little bit more dialed back than the kind of gung-ho stuff that we've seen at times from Ange in the last 18 months.
Well,
Any
sure,
chance
it's another
there's a manager who's sitting on the sidelines right now, probably sitting on his hands and knees, begging for that itch to get back involved in top level football in the Premier League, who's currently sitting in a sporting director's role out in Germany, who maybe is not Terzic.
Oh, not Terzic.
Not Terzic. This guy is he's thinking, he's been out of the game for a year now. Could he be missing it too much?
Oh, Nagelsmann.
What about Jurgen?
Oh, Jurgen Klopp. Yeah, I'd give my left. I'd probably give my left testicle to have him in. I think he'd be fantastic. But he's one of those guys that if you're not a Liverpool fan, he is. You hate him, right? You hate his big teeth. You hate that smile. You hate that. You hate him because he's so good. But if he was donning the press conferences in those brilliant Sadice chairs that you guys are macking over there, then you'd soon fall in love with him, wouldn't you? He's incredible.
There's not even a 0.5% chance of that happening.
Mate, it's not even 0.001.
Premier League.
There's no chance.
I think he even said he would never take another Premier League team.
Yeah, managers say a lot of things, but when they're out of a job and they want to get back into it and they see an opportunity, life's short. That's the reality. You never know.
My God, Simeon, you really have gone from one side. You've gone from one side of let's keep Ange to now let's try and entice Jurgen Klopp. Sim,
Making the highest paid Premier League manager of all time.
One thing I will say on this, and it's another
How much
thing,
would it take? How much would it take to get him?
Write a number down, Jurgen.
25 million? 25 million a year? Would you pay 25 million a year?
30.
The other thing you've got to remember with this is, and Sean and I have also discussed this and agreed with this, is whoever next comes in, whenever it may be, Tottenham Hotspur have got to pick a lane and stick to it. Stop going with the young, the old, the attacking, the defensive, the pragmatic, the build, the projects, the win now. Pick a lane and stick at it. And if you are going to bring in another manager, bring it in with someone who's got similar ideas, maybe slightly varied, like Sean said, but you can't keep changing the style of football, especially after a certain someone said after Aston Villa or in his final season programme notes, we're going to stick to the Tottenham way, whatever that may be. And then when it goes on to hire 3 defensive managers, then an attacking one. As and when
Ryan, do you think there's any chance, right? Like, I think Jurgen Klopp is a bridge too far. but money does talk, right? Let's be honest. Money does talk. Is there any chance? First of all, I don't even know if you rate the geezer, but someone like an Eddie Howe, right, who's a little bit hamstrung right now by Newcastle United.
I would take Eddie Howe
playing within the rules of FFP. You'd have to pay him 2, 3, 4 times more than he's getting at Newcastle. Is there any chance? Even if tell me A, if you rate him or not, but B, if you do, is there any chance that money? If you were to pay him Conte money, would you be okay with Eddie Howe coming into Tottenham?
In a heartbeat.
Okay.
Yeah,
you boys, how about you, Benenson?
I like Eddie Howe.
I would love Eddie Howe. And you know, I liked him when he left the Bournemouth role, and I like him even more now seeing him at Newcastle. He's got varied ways of playing. You know, he can play in that low block system as well, and when he's up against it, he can play high pressing.
Master of shithousery as well, right, Ben?
All of you would have sacked him last season.
Master playing the game.
Yeah.
All of you might have sacked him last season, though.
Do you know what? And I keep telling Ben about this. Ben about this. I made myself sick the other week, and I watched the Newcastle documentary again, and it makes me sick watching that. If we had owners and you watch that documentary and see how they wanted Eddie Howe to succeed and whatever, you'd stand by him. Eddie Howe.
Wait, what owners are you talking about? Are you talking about the Newcastle owners that aren't prepared, even though there's $600 billion PIF fund, and they're not prepared to put in the $1.2 billion it's going to cost to redevelop St James's Park? Those
I'm
owners.
talking about when they appointed Eddie Howe, Sean, and how they've stuck with Eddie Howe, and what they did to get Anthony Gordon, and how they spoke. I mean, we'll talk more about our hierarchy in a minute, but you just see it, and Eddie Howe has the full backing from that ownership, and they will do what it takes.
Does he have the full? I'm not sure he does, mate. I'm not sure he does.
I think he does.
If
maybe
Chelsea
not the director of football, but the owners, yeah.
Hasn't he been hamstrung by PSR though?
Correct.
Yeah, he has. But let's just matter of fact stuff here. Newcastle Newcastle, Chelsea, and City have created a little cabal within the ownership model that are dissidents away from the Premier League rules that the other 15 clubs are all on board with. They've managed to get in El Naswari and the Aston Villa guys to join that dissent, because they don't want a tightening of the rules around FFP and PSR and all that stuff's up in the air anyway. To the point where the PFA, who's funding them, by the way, that was interesting, who's scratching who's back there, they've even blocked this notion of anchoring, which is a movement towards a more, not just a sustainable future, but a levelling of the playing field. But Newcastle United are, if Chelsea can find 17 loopholes in which to sell their left toe to their right toe and lease it back over the last 18 months, and Manchester City are probably, in all likelihood, not that we know, but judging by the fact that they spent £200 million more than all the other Premier League teams put together in January, they're probably looking at either an extreme level of confidence or a known fact that they're getting away with 115 charges, of which, if you've read that 100-page dossier, which I have, that was on Twitter in the summer, then to me it's incredibly crazy if they do get away with it. It's madness with the associated party transactions. But all of that stuff to one side, Newcastle United have got as many loopholes as there always have been to circumvent the rules, and yet they don't do it. And then when it comes to their willingness to invest in a $1.2 billion pound stadium that is going to cost to move St James's Park 100 feet to the left, the other side of that park that's on the side of their stadium, and they're not prepared to do it. I'm not sure if Newcastle United's owners are quite the incredible opportunity that Newcastle fans thought they were going to be with regards profligate spend that has been seen in the past by Manchester City's owners, the Abu Dhabi Group, and by Todd Bowley and the Clear Lake Capital Group, who are massive beneficiaries of a very unique set of circumstances that afforded them with regards to taking over from Chelsea after Abramovich was forced essentially to leave England after the Russia-Ukraine war. So I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that Newcastle haven't done more in the way of circumvention, other than doing some kind of let's inflate the prices of a couple of youth team players and trade them with Villa, trade them with Everton, trade them with Chelsea like they did last summer. That's the only example that Newcastle have done. And other than that, Eddie Howe has been really hamstrung by PSR, as you say, Ben, correctly. But why? But why are Newcastle playing the game, but Chelsea and City don't? It's and Villa as well. I mean, look at Aston Villa, right? They got a 96% wage to revenue ratio, which only really matters if they have three seasons in Europe because of the 70% European wage to turnover ratio rule, and yet it didn't make any sense. And then you got to go, oh, well, hang on a second. What's happening now? What's happening in the future? Oh, that's right. Saudi Arabia have come in and bought John Duran for 72 million, giving them a 68 million pound net profit. So you understand why Villa are doing it. You didn't see it at the time, but obviously it became fact after the fact. But Newcastle haven't done the same thing, and it's a head scratcher for me. Like, they're the team that could probably do it the easiest, and yet they haven't. So I'm not sure if Eddie Howe has been backed by their owners. And I think if you're a Newcastle fan, you're probably a little bit frustrated by their owners, if I'm entirely honest.
I want to move on to the last topic, but just before I do, I just want to know what Sim is thinking about his. Is there any sort of situation where you would be Ange out before the end of the season?
Yeah, if we go out the round of 16, and the form, obviously the league form is still what it is, I think there's no point keeping him. We know he's going to go at the end of the season, so you might as well just look. I'm, at that point, I'm not saying you have to sack him now. At that point, I'm like, you might as well. Like, I don't really see that you can get rid of him, and maybe just get Mason into the end of the season, and it doesn't really make a difference. But right now, I think the best course of action is to keep him. But yeah, if
we go out the round of 16, but the league form does take a little bit of an upturn, would you want to keep him?
If it takes a bit of an upturn, you might as well let him see it out. What's the difference? What changes? You might as well let him see it out.
But you'd want him sacked at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So we're 2 losses away from Sim being Ange out.
There's a timeline.
One tie loss. The roads are leading there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, people.
Well, we're going to beat United in Ipswich. It's all good. We've got one game a week. We've got players back. Come on. It's Ange time. It's Ange full time.
Slowly coming.
Look, the reality is, I'm not. We went out the cups, and that was what he was hanging his hat on. That I was hanging my hat on that. I knew it was going to be difficult. Obviously, when I spoke about the cups, I was hoping and assuming, given the reports, that we would have the likes of Van de Ven, Romero, and some other players back for these games. Didn't happen, and that led to the defeats and the bad performances, and that's why we're out. And I'm gutted by it. And of course, that's a strike against him. There's no other way of looking at it than a strike against Ange. But for me, I still think we might as well give him that Europa League campaign.
How many strikes does one man need?
One more.
Just before we actually move on to this Levy stuff, I just wanted to get Brian and Sean's quick opinion on Romero. Do you reckon is there something fishy going on in the background? Is he going to turn out for Argentina next month in the internationals? We saw him back in training, 3-4 weeks ago now. All we've heard, he's a slow burner, but the reality is, since taking shots at the board, we haven't seen him. Do you think smoke for that fire, or what do you reckon, Sean?
I'm not a subscriber to this notion that we're hiding injuries from the press because of the backlash or whatever. But I do think that there's definitely it's fishy, isn't it? It's not just him, right? It's Van de Ven as well. Like, what's going on there? He was supposed to be back, then he's not back. It's a slow bleed. We're slowly bedding him back in. Why do you play 45 minutes and then you don't see him in the next game against Elfsborg?
It's 3, Sean.
So Sean, we're not hiding them. We might be concealing them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, but I wouldn't be surprised if something fishy was going on. What that looks like, I don't know. But yeah, and in terms of Romero, his injury was from if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? He kicked someone's foot.
Who, Romero?
Is that right? Yeah, was that what? Yeah, he kicked someone's foot, didn't he? That was the last time we saw him, right?
Yeah, I think actually, so he injured his toe for Tottenham. He then played, I think, against Ipswich 90 minutes after coming off, I think, 2 games in a row. He went off 45 at half-time, I think, or very early on for 2 games in a row. He then played 90 minutes against Ipswich, then went into international duty and aggravated it for Argentina.
That's right.
I think in the first game. And then since then, we haven't seen him since not true, because he came back against Chelsea. after he recovered from the toe injury, then picked up a calf injury 5 minutes into the Chelsea game, or 15 minutes
15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and listen. People think that I protect Daniel Levy from every criticism. I really don't. I spent 3 hours on Sabbath's channel yesterday, and I criticised him more than I gave him credit. But I don't think Daniel Levy is as spiteful as to sit there and watch his team struggle as he is, and watch us have to play defenders out or midfielders out of position because he called out the club. I wouldn't go that far, Ben. But I think that there's something odd happening.
Sean, there is rumours. This is completely unsubstantiated. There's just such things that have floated around ITK circles.
like my transfer videos that I make up as I go along.
Exactly. I even got a text saying that this is the case, that the Van der Ven and Romero are in kind of not rushing to come back, in a sense that they don't really want to come back and play. Like, they don't want to get re-injured. Like, they're kind of... I guess the rumours are that they don't want to play under Ange. They're not.
Every player wants to play, mate. Every player wants to play football. I don't subscribe to it. I think it's. I think we're in the world. We're dealing with the realms of. It's as crazy as people rooting for relegation.
Well, you have no doubt that Romero will be fit and proper for that Argentina game in a month's time.
For sure. That's just a common theme there. That's just his priorities, right? The same with Richarlison. It's always, club country before club with some of these South Americans.
Brian, do you think there's any smoke without fire?
No, I don't think there's always smoke where there's fire. I think what I'd like to see Spurs, he's blatantly going to go to Argentina. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But Spurs should act like these big boy clubs do and say, right, you play him 45 minutes, if that, and then he's coming home for the second game, and put some pressure on them to say, right, we need to protect this asset. I don't think there's any coincidence whatsoever. It's obvious that you speak out against a club like this, there is
repercussions.
Thank you. I could not get that word out.
I heard you say it.
So do you think Levy is preventing him coming back into the team?
Mate, I don't know if it's with just Levy. I don't know if it's Romero. And there's literally whether Romero... I know, we all know that Romero has come out and openly said he loves this club. He loves this club. He loves this club. His kid was born here. He loves it. And kind of like what Harry Kane said, kind of along the lines, I want to see this football club progressing. I want to see this football club have a plan of action to go forward. And there isn't one. There hasn't been one for years. So at his age, especially when a Real Madrid or a Barcelona are sniffing around, for anyone, but especially South Americans, as we know. And I don't think there's no smoke without fire. And I hope to see Romero back in the Spurs shirt this season, but I think it will be the last time we see him in a Spurs shirt, because this summer, arrivederci, ciao, bye-bye. He will move to a bigger club, and then it will be forced upon the youngsters, like your Ashley Phillips, your Dragusins, your Grays, because we will not reinvest that money in the pure quality to replace him, like we did with Richarlison, with Kane. The replacements have been already bought.
We signed Solanke.
He's out. Oh yeah, forgot about Solanke. Solanke and Richarlison since Kane. We always bring in the replacements before Solanke was after, but the quality, I think Romero's out of here come the summer, completely out. And
would you swap Romero for Mark Gahey?
I love Guehi. I think he's a fantastic defender. I think we should, if this PR stunt that they tried was legit, they would have tried this before the window, or as the window was opening, like Liverpool did with Virgil van Dijk all those years ago, because that deal was never going to get done in the last weekend with Crystal Palace. It was never going to happen. It was a PR stunt like this club does. But I think Guehi is a tremendous defender. I really, really like him. If he was to come in English, I all day long.